Hi everyone, welcome back to the US CPA classes for financial accounting and reporting. In this particular video, I'll be walking you through in detail about standard setting process for business entity. Here we'll be learning in detail about FASB, that is Financial Accounting Standard Board, their operations, and more importantly, we'll be also understanding in detail about process of issuing a new accounting standard update. So let's dive into to understand more in detail about FASB and how to set up the new accounting standard for profit organization and update thereof.
Do you know how we set accounting standard in India by any chance?
Yes, sir.
What is the process?
So first of all, I mean, there is an industry or the stakeholders meet और फिर मतलब agenda ड्राफ्ट करा जाता है, फिर उसका एक ड्राफ्ट पब्लिक कमेंट्स के लिए ओपन होता है. Thereafter the public comments are received and thereafter the final standard is drafted and thereafter मतलब MCA अगर कंपनीज का है तो उनका अप्रूवल लेके मतलब फाइनल स्टैंडर्ड पब्लिश हो जाता है गजेट में.
Yeah. Shivam, Akash, Ayush, you have any idea?
सर ब्रॉडली प्रोसेस यही है सर.
Same as Shivam is saying.
Yeah. So same way like in US, let's understand more or less the process is same, but terminology is slightly different. So first is Financial Accounting Standard Board. What is FASB? Any idea?
Sir, FASB is the board, is the basically standard setting board, which promulgates all the standards, accounting standards for adoption by companies. And it is basically it comes under AICPA के अंदर आता है ये. And वही सब standards ही set करता है, accounting standards. Like FASB similar हो गया, जैसे इंटरनेशनल स्टैंडर्ड बोर्ड होता है वो IFRS कर रहा है, उसी तरीके से FASB है on the similar lines.
Yeah. Do you remember the class where I have given you the introduction of US GAAP?
Yes, sir.
So there we have discussed these things like, on the top body is the Congress, who is the legislator of the federal government. Under that, they formed SEC. SEC have, like created, or you can say, drafted the Federal Security Act, Security Exchange Act, and SOX Act. That has been approved by the Congress, or you can say legislature body. Then after, the next body comes as AICPA. So AICPA has 4 vertical: authoritative body, code of conduct, committee and board, and then monitoring and enforcement. So in this authoritative body, there is a body called FASB, Financial Accounting Standard Board. And then there is another body called Government Accounting Standard Board, which is GASB. And then another body is called IASB, International Accounting Standard Board. Right. So, one quick thing, just to avoid the confusion. So IFRS is being developed by IASB, International Accounting Standard Board. Right. So in the AICPA, there is a separate wing of the IASB as well. Right. So AICPA is an NGO basically, right, and which do work in these 4 domains. One is they are making authoritative bodies. Second, they are creating code of conduct. Third is the committee and the board. And the fourth one is monitoring enforcement. Right? In the authoritative body, they have 3 bodies. One is FASB, who make the accounting standard for business activity. Second is GASB, who make accounting standard for the governmental entity. Third is IASB, who work closely with the IASB International to make IFRS or align US GAAP with the IFRS. This is how like structuring of AICPA is. Right? And then if you remember the government bodies, how the transformation has happened for the respective committee. So back in 38 to 59, there was like Committee of Accounting. This is called CAP, who is approving the accounting standards. Then after they converted in 1959 to 73 in the Accounting Principal Board called APB, right? In this, all the CPA firms and the CPAs have come and contributed as a volunteer. It was a volunteer job of the CPA firm. But as they were not getting paid, so it was not effective. And like some of the big CPA firm, they have started making to influence according to their client need. So then in 1973, finally they form an NGO, not-for-profit organization called FASB. Right? In the FASB, there is proper fund and proper professional to whom they pay. And they are independent from the CPA firm and independent from any government or industry organization. And they make like this accounting standard. And then in the FASB, it consists of 7 full-time members from the following, you can say, domain. So 1 full-time member from auditing professional, like a big CPA firm, right? Second is from profit-oriented company, that is industry representative. Third is accounting educator like us. Fourth is financial analyst who make analysis of the financial statement, like you can say company like CRISIL in India, right? S&P, Moody's, right? Those kind of organization who do the financial analysis and provide the ratings and analysis report. And then the representation from the government. So these are like 5 domains from where they pick 5 full-time members in the FASB. And under that, there's a paid team, which includes staff to like leadership level. But these are like the top governing body. Make sense?
Yes, sir.
Yes.
Yes, sir, clear.
And how the accounting standard codification is being developed. First is like the agenda. How this agenda has been crafted. So they take inputs from the industry, right? What are the accounting matters and accounting issues in the respective industry, right? And then they do public meeting to discuss and identify those accounting issues. And then they draft exposure. An exposure draft they issue to the public domain again for their comments. After that, they hold a public meeting for a discussion. And then after, accounting standard updates are being made. And those accounting standard updates, if they are major, then it is new accounting standard codification is been done. And that codification, same way how it goes in Gazette, it go in a Congress approval, right? And then finally, the gap has been made. And if you remember, like we discussed on the structure of ESC also, like hope you remember this we have discussed in the very first class.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Right? So there are like journal principle, you will see ESC 100 to 199. Presentation related, you will see 200 to 299. Assets related accounting standard codification, you see in a series of 300 to 399. Liability related accounting standard codification, you will see 400 to 499. Equity related 500 to 599. Revenue related 600 to 699. Expense related 700 to 799. Broad transaction 800 to 899. Industry specific guidance is in a range in a 900 to 999 category. Right? Then there are subtopic and sections to it. Right? And then after, if you remember, I have walked you through the website of the FASB. Do you want me to walk you through again really quick so that you understand from where you can extract the accounting standard codification and how you need to review, or you can say consider those respective accounting standard codification. Do you remember this one, or
Yes, sir.
shall I take you?
Sir, remember.
So Shivam, just for your benefit, if you go to the FASB organization web, fasb.org, you will see this kind of screen, right? And this kind of screen, you just need to select the accounting standard codification. The next slide will come like this. You want to take a professional view or a journal view. So then you select, you need to put your email ID, right? And you need to select I'm not a bot, and then it will allow you the access of FASB codification. right? The next slide will come as a license agreement. Here you need to accept all the terms, and after accepting, the next you can say screen will be looks like this: FASB accounting standard codification. So like we were discussing earlier, there are these categories: journal principle, presentation, assets, liability, equity, revenue, expenses, and all those things. So here you will see in the first column, similar to that will come. Then if you click on anything, like for example, here we click on asset. So it will show all the 300 category: cash and cash equivalent, receivable, investment, inventory, other assets, intangible, property, plant and equipment, right? So it shows your accounting standard codification 310 is for receivable. And then subtopic, if you click on receivable, it will give you all the subtopic and then subtitles. So this is how you can click on it and you can go down to the respective. For example, here we click on to that and we reach to the topic number 30, which is initial measurement, right? So here you can study the respective accounting standards, right? And if you want to take the download version, that is a paid version. For that you need to take the license, but free version is available to everyone. You can go and read on their website, and you can copy paste also, but you cannot download, right? If you want to download any accounting standard, then you have to take the premium version, which is a paid version, right, Shivam?
Yes, sir.
So now this generally accepted accounting principle are basic accounting principle and standard and specific convention, rules, regulation that define accepted accounting principle practices at a particular time by incorporation and consensus. So ASC is the source of US GAAP. Accounting standard codification is the key source of US GAAP, right? Other non-authoritative accounting guidance you will also see, which is being widely used, that is practice that are widely used in the industry. FASB concept statement also there, CPA also issue papers, IFRS also being considered as a guiding light. Where you do not have clarification in the US GAAP, you go for IFRS, right? Pronouncement from the professional association like CPA, or you can say some CPA association, which is being recognized association, right? Technical informative service inquiry and replies included CPA technical practice aid, that is also resources, accounting textbook, handbooks and articles, right? So like we were discussing in the morning, the objective of the GAAP is to give you relevant information, reliable information and comparable information. And the basic of the GAAP is the assumption. This we will be discussing. Principle and constraint also we'll be discussing today in detail. So objective of like taking you through this presentation, just to remind you what we have studied earlier, so that this is coming almost the same what we have studied in very first class. Right now, coming back to the notes, FASB, right? FASB is the Financial Accounting Standard Board, which is being established in 1973 for what? For establishing the accounting standard or doing the accounting standard codification for business entity, right? Any doubt? Ayush?
No, sir.
So just one doubt.
Yes.
सर जैसा आपने बोला था AICPA के अंदर IFRS IASB आता है, तो मतलब IASB की एक विंग है ना, IASB तो अलग चलता है ना यूके
Yes,
के
yes.
लिए?
There is a wing of IASB who work closely with the IASB International.
ओके, वो भी सर सिर्फ इसलिए चलता है क्योंकि उन लोग को मतलब एक मैच मेकिंग करनी है ना, जैसे इंडेस 1115 के केस में अपन ने देखा था रेवेन्यू रिकग्निशन के केस में कि दोनों लगभग सेम उस पे आ गए थे, बाकी स्टैंडर्ड्स में अभी भी सिमिलैरिटी नहीं आ पाई है, यही आप कहना चाह रहे हैं?
No, there are 2-3 things. One is like alignment of US GAAP with IFRS. Second thing is, SEC allow IFRS financial statement as well. So they have to have IASB wing. If you can say
अच्छा
the
हाँ
company
सही
is an international company and they have subsidiary in US and they have to file in US. They can file in IFRS also. That is allowed.
exactly.
So we'll discuss that why. So there are certain reasons why IASB wing has been open under the AICPA. Right. Second
Okay,
point,
ठीक है.
coming back to the notes here. Second point is standards are officially recognized as authoritative by the Security Exchange Commission. So whatever the accounting standard codification FASB made, that is being recognized as authoritative by the SEBI or SEC, Security Exchange Commission, and AICPA. Right. Third point is accounting standard codification are single source of authoritative GAAP recognized by the FASB to be applied for non-governmental entity. That means for business entity. So here point is single source of authoritative GAAP. Right? Any other thing you can be a literature to support the GAAP, but when it comes to GAAP, it is ASC. Right? FASB issues accounting standard update to update the codification. So there are two things. One is accounting standard codification. That means new accounting standard is being developed, right? And then second thing is recurring update in that accounting standard. So when you need to make a new accounting standard codification, it required approval of the Congress. Whereas if you have to do some minor updates, that you can do with the approval of FASB. Right? That is called accounting standard update, and it is being part of the ASC. Make sense?
Yes, sir.
Any doubt here?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So rule and interpretative release of the SEC under the federal security law are also source of authoritative GAAP for SEC. That means if SEC is making certain rule or interpretation over and above the GAAP, right? And when you are doing the accounting of that SEC registered company, then you need to follow that rules and regulation on the top of standards, right? Make sense?
Okay, sir, मतलब SEC register. Sir, just one doubt. सर मतलब एसईसी रजिस्ट्रेंट्स जो हैं, जैसे मान लीजिए वहां की जो लिस्टेड कंपनी है से जेएलएल है, ठीक है, तो जेएलएल के केस में आप अकाउंटिंग स्टैंडर्ड कोडिफिकेशन तो फॉलो करोगे, बट एसईसी के जो रूल्स हैं वो भी फॉलो करने जाएंगे, है ना?
Yes.
Okay.
Right. For example, like we are seeing this 10K, GM 10K, right? General Motors is being SEC registered, right? This management discussion and analysis is not part of any accounting standard codification, right? It's part of SEC requirement.
Yes, sir. Yes,
right?
sir.
So you need to disclose that. For example, if there is a merger and acquisition, right? And then SEC says some additional disclosure required for the user of financial statement, then the normal accounting standard codification, then normal accounting standard codification plus SEC rule, which required additional disclosure that you need to make in financial statement. That is what it means. Make sense?
Yes, sir. Yes.
All guidance contained in the codification carry an equal level of authority. So you cannot say like one guidance is important and another guidance is not important. All the guidance are equally important. Last one is the rule of procedure described in FASB operating procedure, the due process activity that are to be open to the public participation or observation to provide transparency into the standard setting. So like we discussed earlier, so market participation and public participation is required to make sure that accounting standard codification or updation which we are making is very transparent process. Now coming to the process which we have discussed earlier in that chart. First is board identify the financial reporting issue. Second, they decide whether to add that project in the technical agenda or not based on the severance and materiality. Then after, once board decide to consider that into the agenda, then they deliberate at one or more public meeting. They discuss in a public meeting with the various issue and identify and analyze by the respective staff member. Fourth step is board issue the exposure draft to the public and to the stakeholder. And then board may issue the discussion paper also to obtain additional inputs at the early stage. Right? Once it goes to the public as an exposure draft, then the board gives some time for public to respond. Or if needed, they can hold a public roundtable meeting as well to discuss the exposure draft and take their direct input. And that also, like in most of the accounting standard codification, it is done. But sometime for ASU, which is like small modification, then it is not a mandatory procedure, right? Sixth is staff analyze the comment letter, like all the responses, roundtable discussion, they do internal analysis and do the due process for the respective activity. And then they deliberate on the respective provisions. And again, if needed, they do one more public meeting where they discuss the deliberation based on all the inputs they have received. And then finally, board issue accounting standard update to describe as an amendment in accounting standard codification. But if you are making a new ASC, then it go to the Congress for approval. Like same way, it has to be passed through the Gazette. Right?